Coucou everyone, it's Laura, and it's been a while since I filmed, so what better way to get back into the swing of things by filming a video on how to find accommodation in Paris, how I found accommodation. My name's Laura, I'm originally from Australia and I've been living in Paris for 2.5 years, so all of this information might be more relative to Paris, but I think it's also relative to France as a whole, but there obviously are more options in bigger cities. And I'll be sharing all the tips on finding short-term and long-term accommodation, whether you're here on holiday or moving. I'm not gatekeeping anything. If there are any things that I'm missing in the video, please let me know and leave a comment down below. Let's get into the video. So starting off with short-term accommodation, there are so many options here in Paris. There's actually quite a few more options that have popped up since I've been living here for the past 2.5 years. So starting off with the most obvious one, we have Airbnb. You can actually rent these for more than a month at a time or a month. So strongly recommend if you're planning to move here, it's easier to find a place long-term when you're on the ground. So I would just rent an apartment on Airbnb in advance, so you have somewhere, you know it's safe, it's scam free most of the time, so that's a great option. Another option are websites like Logis and Blue Ground. They can be a little bit more expensive, but they do have furnished apartments. There's also Paris Attitude, Paris Perfect Rentals, which is very expensive. That's more on the luxury end, depending on your budget. And there's also Cozy and Wonder Flats. So I used to keep a spreadsheet of everything and have all of the options available and just constantly refreshed. Most budget-friendly short-term option, in my opinion, would probably be Airbnb or something like Logis. All of these options are furnished and you won't have to worry about, you know, finding furniture and all of those extra things. There's also a relatively new service that I have seen pop up recently with lots of people and people that I know have actually found their apartment through them. It's called Flats Paris, F-L-A-T-Z Paris. And there is another one I'm aware of, but I can't remember the name right now. If I do remember, I'll add it here. They act as an in-between person. They can help you find apartments and rentals. It is specifically quite difficult to find somewhere, you know, if you don't speak French, if you don't have friends here and you might need a guarantor, they can help you with that. I haven't personally gone with them, but seeing the success stories of people I know, I think that's another great option as well. So those are my options for short term. Next, I'm going to be talking about flat sharing. So this can either be short term or long term. I think it's a really great option here when you're moving here. I actually started moving straight into a flat share. I was super lucky. I found the apartment that I wanted to move into on a website called Le Carte des Colocs. And this is a really great website for flat sharing. I think it's probably the most legit, but you also have websites like Le Bon Coin where they offer flat sharing as well. But that website particularly I thought was really great. You can connect to the people, beware of the scams of course, but my story was that I was so lucky. I was looking at different options, different places to stay. I was really stressed because I didn't have somewhere secure and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna get an Airbnb. But actually a few days before my flight, I had a girl message me on Carte des Colocs and she said, my housemate's moving out and I love Australians, would love to meet you. Are you available this weekend? And I was actually flying that week to Paris, so I had something lined up for me. The apartments and the flat shares do go very quickly, so you have to be competitive and you have to stay on top of it. But I thought flat sharing was awesome because I also didn't know anyone in Paris, and being with someone who spoke French and who could really help me with things to do with the landlord was really, really helpful. And also just helped me, you know, make friends and have someone to lean on when I was here. So I highly recommend La Carte des Colocs for flat shares. And also because it's so expensive to rent in Paris that maybe flat sharing is a great idea just to get your foot in the door, get assimilated with the culture, the city. Cannot recommend flat sharing highly enough. There is another option for flat sharing. It is quite expensive though, so warning. It's called Cohabs, and I think there are a couple of websites like this where you may have a luxurious room that has an ensuite or may not, but it is sort of like a larger house that you live in with multiple people with a big kitchen and things like that. It's a different version of flat sharing, and it could just be similar to regular flat sharing or kind of like you have a semi self-contained room that you're also sharing the common living areas. So that's another option for you if you don't mind sharing with other people as well. So now finally moving on to long-term options. So I was looking for something long-term when I moved here. There are many great options that you can use for finding something long-term here in France, but beware because there are a lot of scams. So I found it a lot easier for me to find something long-term when I had actually arrived, because then I could have my French phone number, I could set up my bank account, which is something that you often need before you move here or before you can rent a place. So what I did was I waited till I landed here. I had an Airbnb for a while, and I also moved into my coloc, but I was at the same time looking for long-term apartments because I didn't really know where I would end up, to be honest. So options for long-term include websites called Se Loger and PAP. Se Loger and PAP are probably the main ones, I would say. There's also a website called Jinka that includes options from Se Loger, PAP, and other, real estate websites altogether, but it is slightly delayed. So I think it's really great to look on those other websites first. Be careful for scams, especially with Se Loger, because Se Loger, you can have the option to rent your apartment through an agency, or the owner can directly rent the apartment themselves. So sometimes there's scams. Just be careful. Always, always, always visit the apartment before you sign a lease. And that's pretty much the law here in France. You have to go visit an apartment before you actually sign anything. So if someone's asking you for any money and saying, okay, can you send this deposit before you see the apartment, that is a scam. Do not do that. Absolutely not. Beware of those places. So Se Loger and PAP are really great. Also Le Bon Coin. This one is very popular for renting apartments as well, short-term and long-term, but you do need a French mobile number for this website and to make an account. I didn't have a number until I moved here, so I just had to wait before I could actually create an account and log in. It's kind of like Le Bon Coin is kind of like a Craigslist or a Gumtree if you live in Australia and you know what I mean. There's also another website called Gens de Confiance, but you do have to have two or three, I think, referrals that can sponsor you to allow you into the website. You don't have to pay anything, but yeah, if you know someone here that has an account, then you can kind of get through that way. So yeah, I think those are the main websites that I would recommend. Another thing that I don't see people talking about enough is actually looking in the areas and doing a lot of research on your own and looking at those neighborhoods, those quartiers that you want to live, the arrondissement, and actually looking at the real estate agents directly and contacting them. So that's what I did. I did everything. I was hustling when I got here because I didn't know what I would find. I was a bit anxious. Bearing in mind I did move in November, so it wasn't as competitive. If you move in like September and you're trying to find a place, all of the students will want a place themselves. So it is quite competitive, even more so then. But yeah, so what I did was I looked at areas I wanted to live, and then I contacted all the real estate agents in those areas, sent them my budget, sent them what I was looking for, my dossier, which is something I'll talk about in a minute, and they were quite helpful with me as well. Alright, so moving on to tips and tricks beyond my suggestions for different websites and things you can look for. Biggest tip, I know it's boring, it's kind of obvious, learn as much French as possible. I did not know much French before I moved here. I probably knew 1 year's worth of high school study and then a year from university, but it was 6 years from university until I actually moved here and without any practice. I always wanted to move here and I was always fascinated by French language, culture, film, music, so I already was listening and immersing myself in Australia already, and that was not a problem for me. But when I moved here, I can tell you, it's a whole different ballgame. So what I had was, I remember I had my notebook and I had different phrases written out, like, bonjour, like, I would like to rent an apartment, I'm looking for a studio, or I saw your apartment online, can I come take a look, or I'm looking for 1 bedroom, bathroom, etc. Because a lot of the time, when you apply for these apartments on Se Loger or PAP, you will have to call them, and it's like, oh, we don't accept email, please call us. And you also want to, it's so competitive, right, to get a place, so you really want to contact the agent as soon as possible so you can go see that apartment that day. The big thing is that you will need to have a dossier. So a dossier is sort of like a portfolio with all of your information. They will ask for your bank statements, proof that you've created a French bank here in France, which was a bit of a nightmare because I was bouncing between different locations. But if you're staying in a hostel or an Airbnb and you know you're staying there for maybe 2 weeks or so, that day that you arrive in France, just try and go to a bank, any bank, so then they have that address written down. They can mail you, because they have to usually mail it to you. They can't just send you an email. Also 2 garants. So I had a Garant Me certificate. Sometimes that works. I've heard it works a lot for a lot of people, but in my case, my landlord did not accept that. He was like, no, I want to see like a proper guarantor. So it is a bit annoying they can reject it. So yeah, if you have French friends and someone's willing to be your guarantor and they have enough money that can justify and they can match the apartment that you're looking for, definitely try and get all of their information ready as well, like their ID, their phone bill and things like that. I had it also printed as well. I had copies I printed in Australia before I moved here. I was very prepared, guys, like I'm telling you. I'm sure that there's people who've moved to France with less preparation than me, but it was something that was so important to me. I just really wanted to be organized. I wanted to respect the realtors, and I just wanted to find somewhere as soon as possible. So I had it all ready to go. Another thing is that I also had saved in a Google Drive folder. I had the Google Drive application on my phone. So then even if I was seeing an apartment, real estate agent, I can just whip out my dossier there and there and show them on my phone if they asked me, which they probably wouldn't. Just be super organized and be patient. Don't let it get you down. I know it's competitive. I know it is so exhausting. You're going to apartments and you're applying over and over again, and some people are getting the apartments more than you. They're being picked as priority. Just be patient. You will find somewhere that works for you. I believe everything happens for a reason, and not in the sense of like manifesting and just sitting back and letting the universe, do what it shall, but yeah, just be persistent, but don't let it get you down. It happens to everyone. It takes some time, and you will find the perfect place for you. If you are moving over here for work, it might be a little bit challenging to find somewhere. Ask your employer. This is a special circumstance. Ask them. They might be able to help you find somewhere. But if you are moving over here for work or uni or something, try and get here maybe at least a week before, so you don't have anything planned. So you can just get on the phone, talk to the real estate agent, and you can see that apartment that day, because it really is that competitive. I feel like I've been talking forever. But yeah, those are all my tips. I really hope I covered everything. Let me know in the comments if there's still any questions that you had. I'm gonna make a few more videos on why I moved to France and what's my experience living here since 2.5 years, any culture shocks and things like that. I hope all the resources that I've included in the video help, and I'll make sure to include all of the links to the websites mentioned in this video in the description. So anyway, that is it for today. I hope you have a lovely, lovely day, and maybe I'll see you around in Paris. See ya.